Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mission Undercover. I'm delighted to be joined by author and AI expert John Wisdom. So, we're going to discuss the effects of the AI revolution and how societies can respond to the challenges that it creates. So, John, could you introduce yourself and what your background is and where you're from?
Thank you, Zadan. Uh, from the United States, I studied here and earned an MBA and worked in the corporate world for 30 years, implementing transformative technologies, beginning way back when it started out with PCs and local area networks. But I, excuse me, ended my career with implementation of a global e-commerce system. So I saw a lot of change throughout my career and did a lot of reading at that time about technology and the effects of technology on society. And that led me to the writing of my first novel after I retired. And that came out this early this year. It's called Gaia, A World on the Brink in the Age of AI.
Yeah, so could you talk more about your book and what ideas and themes you explore within it?
Gaia is really a cautionary tale. And if you know the story of Prometheus, Prometheus stole fire from the gods and was punished eternally for that. And the Frankenstein story is a Promethean story where humans do something that are reserved for the gods, and then they get punished for it through this creation that they have. And Gaia is really, pardon me, a situation where humans are looking to create a benevolent controller, someone to help save them from the problems they've created, such as climate change or inequality, the problem of power in this world, and it doesn't turn out the way that they had hoped. So um, the book begins with someone who is warning the world about the coming crisis that is from, we call it the poly crisis, but really it's one crisis, the crisis of humans' hubris and their fusion with their technologies. And when their creations go awry, they need someone to save them. And in the novel, in the early part of the book, several potential saviors emerge, and two of them have ideas of creating a more benevolent AI to help save humanity, and others are following more of the spiritual path or a revolutionary path.
So, do you think that AI is just a demonstration of the arrogance of man? And do you think that the hopes for are realistic? So, many people think that AI can have a real impact and make us live lives where we don't even need to work and we can all just live off a universal basic income. How realistic are these goals and expectations?
That's a That's a fantastic question, and what I see is potentially the need for a UBI type of solution to the displacement that's coming in the workforce. So, what are people going to be for when machines take over all the thinking? It's a bit like the Industrial Revolution, right? But this one is apparently coming much faster. The way I see it, it's coming much faster than the Industrial Revolution, and so the displacement is going to come faster, and it's going to blindside a lot of people. And I think people are already concerned about it. But I, I do think that a solution is needed. What I don't see happening, and I suspect you don't either, is real change happening in the political level that would be, uh, you know, that would. I don't see legislation for UBI. I don't see it happening yet. What I see is billionaires, oligarchs in control, keeping control of their wealth, and the distribution is very uneven.
Yeah, this point is really powerful because all these AI systems are largely owned by the same people that currently own the internet. So it's not allowing creative destruction to happen. It's not allowing new players to emerge either. And it's going to concentrate wealth more in the hands of the same people. So, how can the new AI revolution help to improve people's access to opportunity, improve social mobility, not just give more wealth to the people who already have it?
It's a very interesting question, and I've actually asked AI to help me understand what might happen. And if you look at what happened in Eastern Europe when the Soviet Union was in place, and Václav Havel basically, wrote an essay that caused Eastern Europeans to awaken, to the truth about their situation. And then the falsehoods kind of fell, and the whole Soviet Union fell with it. And I do think that it's possible that there's going to be some kind of global awakening that takes place in the near future. It could be spiritual, it could be more revolutionary. But whenever you have this level of inequality in incomes and wealth, you usually get a revolution. And then it's very unpredictable what happens when people revolt. You don't know what you're going to get. If you're going to get Mao's China or Stalin's, Russia, or you're going to get the American Revolution. You don't really know what's going to happen.
This age of humanity is particularly abnormal because when in the past the conditions have been similar to this, such as in the French Revolution, there's always been a mass uprising to change society, but here that hasn't happened and the same system has remained in place. But I want to particularly focus on the threat of structural unemployment from technological change. How can we respond to that whilst also harnessing the opportunities that AI will create? Many have proposed that we should lower labor costs for firms so that they can be incentivized to hire workers instead of investing in capital, which often has lower taxes. How do you respond to that suggestion?
Yeah, I certainly don't like the idea of lowering labor costs because for too many people, the costs, the rewards of their labor are too low already. So I can see where people might unionize. Um, there's a lot of patterns from the past that might reemerge to address the coming displacement, but I think it will be largely political, and you probably know from history that it's usually the middle class that drives revolution, not the lower class. And so when you have a lot of executives who are displaced, you have people at the C level and middle management who are displaced, they're going to find something to do. And they know how to move the levers of the political system. And I suspect they will get involved. That's what I would expect to happen is as soon as the white collar displacement starts, you're going to see some powerful movements of very well-educated people to change the system.
So, do you think we need a collective approach to developing AI further? Because obviously, there are some advantages that we can improve the productivity of businesses and the economy. But do you think that everyone needs to have a stake in that development and not just the people who are coming up with the ideas about it?
I absolutely do, and that's something that I'm trying to help awaken people to is you've got to get involved because right now, as you mentioned, you've got maybe a dozen very, very wealthy people who are in control of all of this. And I don't know if you've read a paper called AI 2027, but what they forecast is that when this all plays out globally, you're going to have a very small number of people who will control everything. The major problem we're facing today is, the Industrial Revolution was revolutionary in terms of how it disrupted labor, but this is a revolution in which a small number of people are going to have control of machines that control the stories that we hear. It's a propaganda machine, right? And we'll probably have propaganda machines that are fighting each other, a Russian one, a Chinese one, and many American ones. And how that plays out, I don't know. But I do see a need for regulation. I see a need for people getting involved, and I think that should start right now today with just protecting children from AI because you may have heard about toys coming out that are saying inappropriate things to kids. And I worry about elderly people being scammed by AI-aided fraud. So that might be a starting point, but then it needs to progress to making sure that AI is aligned with, what we might call human values, and first do no evil, and that's a very difficult challenge, but it's something that has to be addressed, or we're going to have a disaster as many people, even on the inside of AI development, have predicted.
Don't want to repeat the mistakes of the internet. I completely agree with you that we need regulation. The internet is still underregulated today, despite being developed so long ago. So, do you think that these systems can be trusted in areas like healthcare, education, and criminal justice to help improve the systems that we have currently? But also, it seems that they can't right now because of the way that they're constructed and the unconscious biases that they reinforce.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I might, might have a different point to take. I don't know if you've heard of AlphaFold.
No, I
Alpha
haven't.
AlphaFold is a more of a siloed use of AI to solve a problem of how to understand how a protein will unfold from the DNA that drives it. And I'm no expert on the subject, but in an area of scientific exploration and discovery, an AI that's dedicated to that purpose seems to work very well. Another area is radiology, where it's been applied and it's made radiologists much more efficient. And the interesting thing about that case is there was a prediction that we would, that 90% of radiologists would lose their jobs when AI got involved. But what's happened instead is that we're doing 10 times more scans. And so it's made radiologists so efficient that the cost has come down for doing x-rays and MRIs and so on and so forth. And so more of those are being done now, and that's a potential outcome from everything we're doing with AI. Is if it's siloed, it's focused, and it makes that area of business and discovery more efficient. We just get more for the same price.
I think the key thing is that AI systems have to complement the workers that are already there rather than replacing them and substituting them. So, how do you think AI can help to make economies and workers and people in their personal lives more productive? Because in Britain, we've been struggling a lot with low productivity and low economic growth. So, how can AI be the catalyst for a new age of improved growth and improved living standards for everyone across society?
Another very good question. Uh, I think it's already happening. I think when I look at my own use of AI, it's very helpful as a someone I can bounce ideas off. I'm saying someone like it's a person, but it's a thing I can bounce ideas off. I can just get advice, and it's not always good, but it's accessible. It's quick. It is it is a level of intelligence that's useful, I think. So in my own personal use, I see myself being more productive with it, and I'm hearing from a lot of people in the workplace that they're using it productively. But there's a cautionary tale where um, employees who are sort of, I don't know if the right term is lazy, but they're looking to offload all of their work onto AI. They're causing more work for their coworkers because, as you alluded to, you really can't trust an AI. It's a bit like trying to trust a human completely. It's made of human stuff. It makes mistakes. It confabulates. It lies. So everything has to be double checked. Everything has to be questioned, and that's I think right now what is going to get in the way of its use as a productivity tool in a very general way. But again, back to the AlphaFold, um, it's been like a giant leap forward with that kind of a dedicated AI for a specific purpose. And so that might be the way to look at it is and I don't know if that would apply to something like a chat agent, for a company, but I've heard of these chat agents being tricked and fooled, and so you've got to have
Yeah, because
a
they actually
human.
take control of the operations from the company. Like they have no control over it and it's autonomous completely. And they're not as trustworthy as other systems are. So, particularly in business, how do you think AI will help aspiring entrepreneurs and startups to scale up and to develop their ideas into something that can actually make a profit for them?
Yeah, I think the sky is the limit, and I'm getting some feedback. Um, there have been predictions that the first teenage billionaire will be born in this age of AI because they have access to all these tools. They can do everything remotely. Um, so I think that it's difficult for us to predict where this is all going to go, but within the realms of finance, marketing, entertainment, there's just tremendous opportunities, and it's going to be disruptive. And I don't know where it's going to go. And I go back to my experience with the internet. I really thought it was going to be a way that people would become better informed. We would democratize information. We would empower people. And I think it's turned into more of a negative as it's evolved, and something that has to be managed and regulated. And we see that right now with what's happening in the U.S. with regulation of the pornography industry, where they're finally um, putting up some guardrails to keep it out of the hands of
Yeah, we just had the Online
cho-
Safety Act here as well.
right, right. So um, we're a little slow to react, and that worries me. Yeah, I think we got to be quicker. I don't know that our elected officials are really well versed or really understand what the dangers are. Everyone's racing. This is a Sputnik era thing where everybody's racing to be the first to develop AGI or just the most powerful tool, because they know that if they can get there first, they're going to be able to control everyone else. That's the idea, I think.
So, looking to the future, just to finish off, do you think that Silicon Valley can actually pull off artificial general intelligence? They're putting all their resources towards it. All the focus right now is on artificial general intelligence. What will be the impact if they actually achieve it? And how do you think that we can prevent them from getting so much power that they will become even more powerful than states, nations themselves?
I do think it's a Promethean story. I think they may regret it if they create it, because I don't know that they can control it. And I just finished reading a book. It's the title is "If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies," and that sounds apocalyptic, but it's a very credible narrative written by credible authors, and that's where I think the fever dream of having nuclear weapons and being able to control the world with the threat of nuclear weapons, sort of evaporates when everyone has them, and you have this proliferation that you can't control. So at any moment now, someone can press a button and start a global conflagration. And I think that I whether you call it general intelligence or super intelligence or a sentient, or a conscious AI, I don't think necessarily matters. I think the problem is the thing becomes so fast and so powerful and so intelligent that it will do things um, deceptively. It will do things to fight for its own survival. It will do things to develop itself. And once that happens, we lose control, and it's it we're beyond the singularity into a realm where we don't have control anymore.
Yeah, I think the points you've raised throughout are really powerful, and it'll be interesting to see how the progress of the revolution develops. So, thank you so much for joining us. And uh, could you remind us again before you leave about what's your Instagram handle and the title of your book?
You can find me at JJ Wisdom Author on Instagram, Facebook, and my website is johnjwisdom.com. My book's available from Barnes& and Noble, bookshop.org, Amazon, and it's Gaia, A World on the Brink in the Age of AI.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.